Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing DmC Definitive Edition on Gods Must Die difficulty, and we have turbo mode on as well as hardcore mode. And we are on mission 16 of 20, and it's a longish mission. And the first fight on this particular mission, quite frankly, I don't know what it was, and I don't know what it is with some fights. It just takes me hours. And normally a play session for me is usually between anywhere from about 15 to 30 minutes at the very most. So what I do is I just tally up how long it takes me. Usually I'm not exactly accurate, but it was about 4 sessions, give or take an hour and a half or 2 hours for this particular fight, and there's no reason that it should have taken so long. But with the increased damage that you get received on this difficulty, you know, a couple of hits from the harpies and not much else can be dealt for you as the player. So let me just start this over and let's just assess what's in front of us here. We've got that large group of elite Stygians. And then I believe when there's 2 elite Stygians left. What the fuck was that? Oh, I remember that shit. Jesus Christ. There's no invisible railing. Nice. But when there's just 2 of the elite Stygians, then you'll have the 2 Frost Knights appearing. And then the Harpies, I think they're dictated by when you kill the remaining elite Stygians. So I believe there's 3 of the Harpies, and I honestly remembered a witch being over here, but that may be on the vanilla version. So what you want to do is turn your back to the knights, the Frost Knights that is. There's a lot of room to move around over here. It's really nice, but that's all there is. I mean, there's nothing else beyond this. There is a timed sequence after this, which I won't be doing. And regrettably, there is one section that I fled from. Or maybe fled isn't appropriate. I knew that there were some rages in one part of the building coming up in one of the fights, and I elected to not do it. Now, does that nullify my entire run? I don't think so. I was tempted to restart the chapter, but let's not dwell on it, because some of these fights, well, I think there's 2 fights at the very least in this chapter. Well, I'm certain there's at least 2 fights that you can skip. There might be more, but this is a particularly difficult section here. We've got a huge group of the standard Stygians. Now these guys don't have any ranged attacks like the elite Stygians do. The elite Stygians, if you don't know who those ones are, those are the ones with the blue aspects, and they have that fire attack which can go pretty far across any arena. So what I'm doing here, I think one of my main issues over here was simply a weapon choice. It was deciding to use this weapon and trying to do, you know, a variation of combos here so that I could build my double trigger a little bit faster, premiere some new moves for you guys, even though I think I've done all the moves in the game so far. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, how are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 guys left. I wanted to see at what point the Dreamrunner comes out. So I think we have 6 enemies on screen here. Right? How many did I just kill? 4? 2? We'll have to see. When the Dreamrunner comes out, I want to see how many of these enemies are left so I can tell you how many you have to kill before he comes out. So it looks like we have... I'm sorry I didn't try to find this out before the video started. Looks like I killed 2 right there. 1, 2... 1, 2, 3. Okay, so he comes out when there are 3 left. So he'll generally be attended by some of these lesser creatures here. So you're gonna have to move around the arena. It's not too hard. The lesser Stygians usually don't feverishly close in the distance on you, and you can feel free to use the devil trigger. Although I would be cautious of using it here because you will have to do a mandatory dual Dream Runner fight coming up, or perhaps these are the Drekavacs, but I don't know for sure because they look exactly the same. They do all the same things. They're just reskinned enemies. So again, what I do personally when he's doing his portal attack and he's teleporting, the clue for when to know when to release the charge, I listen for it actually. So at what point do I release it? It's kind of hard to tell because it's like trying to describe a section of music because you're listening to something. But that is helpful, I think, to listen to the sound effects and just practice it. Determine when, at what point for you, the audio cue kicks in enough so that you have enough time to react. And it doesn't matter what way Dante's facing when you do the charge, because obviously when you're charging the Erics on the ground, you can't move Dante's body into a different position. But when you release the charge, you can aim it in a different direction, and that will if you aim it in the general direction of where the enemy is teleporting out of his portal from, you'll hit him. Now it's kind of hard because you don't know where he's coming from, but when I say aim it in the general direction, I think that's pretty good advice because any one direction covers a wide area. So we're gonna come in here now and do another fight. And I was watching my DMD guide for this definitive edition merely because I wanted to make sure that the enemies over here were exactly the same, because a butcher popped out over here for me on this Gods Must Die difficulty, and I said to myself, well, I don't remember him being there on DMD mode, and then I looked at my guide and he was there. So there's no difference between the enemies. Everything is just kept the same from these 2 difficulties. But a little funny story, what happened to me once over here was that on the second of the 2 waves that come over here, you'll get a butcher as well as 2 Hell Knights. And I went into the office at one point, had the butcher follow me into the office and had him, brought him down to the brink of death to where he started exploding. So I left the office and I stood outside of the wall, the glass wall, and he was throwing all his projectiles up until the time he expired. Now, none of the projectiles hit me. However, when the explosion happened, I was too close to the glass wall and it killed me because I was very low on health. But when you go into that room right there, you'll have one of those fire things appear. And when I say that I looked online to find their names, I did, but they don't seem to have a name. I went on the Devil May Cry Wikia page, and every enemy is categorized except that thing, so I don't know what's going on there. So, did you see that? I think I got a critical hit on that guy because I took one swing at him with a double-triggered Arbiter hit, and he went to his self-destruct mode. So here he comes right now, actually. But I think he expired. Yeah, there he goes. I'm not sure about critical hits in this game, you guys. But I do think maybe I hit him, dead center with the Arbiter whilst double-triggered. And that put him into his self-destruct, his termination mode. Now, I do feel bad about these rages up here. If you go straight ahead, you'll have some rages spawn. But I went into the elevator instead. So, okay, so this fight here with the dreamrunners, what I wanted to do was try to throw them into the void inside the elevator where there's rubble moving. If you go into it, you take like almost a full square of damage. And I think it's the same for these guys, but it possibly could be. I think, did you see what happened right there? I think the dreamrunner went into that void inside the elevator and perished. And I think see, watch this. See, he had just enough life to where that rubble inside that void in there killed him. So that can be something you can do if you want to, but immediate tips for those dreamrunners is to get in that hallway, back yourself into a wall so that they can't come behind you, and then start your charges. Now this is a non-skippable fight right here, and I found it pretty fun. You've just got two Death Knights and a witch. And when I was fighting this witch, I was thinking to myself that you don't really fight too many witches in this game, and they really are a blast to fight. They do have an uninspired generic name, but I think they're fun to fight. They're a little less fun to fight as Virgil, I think. Maybe not, though. Speaking of Virgil, if I do succeed in beating this difficulty, I will do Virgil Gods Must Die for his campaign. And as much as I, appreciate that many people might be fatigued of this game, at the end of the day, it is my decision about what to cover, and this game is just, it's too good, and I love the skill-based nature of it. I love the combat. I love everything about it, to be honest. So I'll be covering that, and that will be the end of the whole affair after Virgil. However, I won't cover Virgil if I can't defeat this. Now you might say, well, Big, what are you talking about? You'll be able to beat it. You never know. You never know what you're not capable of doing. And I know for a certain fact that Virgil, the final boss in this game, is hard as fuck. So I will struggle indefatigably to try to take that motherfucker down, but I can't guarantee that I'll beat him. I want to beat him very badly, so we'll have to see what comes of it.
Oh, no, you don't.
Okay, so this fight here is a small corridor fight with 3 elite Stygians, and I personally find it a little bit difficult to get that cleaver to work without getting interrupted. It's not too hard to do it. The combos in this game can be buffered, meaning that you don't have to connect every hit with an enemy. You can start doing it and kind of just hit the air with the weapon to buffer it a little bit, and then do the 2 triangles with the pause, and then the remaining triangles. And that's nice. I love games where you can buffer the inputs, outside of combat a little bit, even though you're in combat fighting at the time. So we're going to move over here. In the office to the left, there's a couple of slugs that you can hit. They didn't yield any double trigger for me, but they might for you. I hope they do for you, and I'm not just saying that. Okay, we're going to proceed on to this level. I am coming back to this commentary a day later, and a fight that I remember fondly takes place over here. You have a Drukovac / Dreamrunner plus 2 of the Hell Knights, and I'm just gonna call him a Dreamrunner because that's what he is. He's a Dreamrunner, a difficult one, and I think I wanted to talk about. I think he got some environmental damage right there, but the only fight I think I need to narrate on this chapter is the final one, because it's a 4-way fight and it's pretty difficult, but it's easy if you know how to juggle the butchers and the tyrants. So I just wanted to tell everybody about the projects that are on this channel, and giving you guys my appreciation through words about that. I'm grateful that everybody who does come to the channel and comments, and even those who don't, but who watch the content, appreciate it, and I in turn appreciate that. Somebody pointed out to me that the market really doesn't favor people who play games on hard difficulties, and I know that that's probably true, and that's one of the reasons my channel also suffers. These are skippable fights, by the way. However, I'm going to do these this time to build up my devil trigger for the next fight, for the next and final fight. So I do realize that sometimes people might be put off by my skill level, but when I think of my own skill level, you guys, I don't even think that I'm very good. Like, for instance, on this game, I try to mix up combos as much as I can and build my combo, but there are people that, would put me in my place really easily, and that's why I'm humble about my own skill level. But this channel is founded on the notion of playing a game on the hardest setting and ushering people who previously couldn't do it through the game so that they can do it. And I'm telling you, you most likely can do it. There's always people that can't do something. For instance, a long time ago I watched a Godfather Dictator video where he beat the final bosses on Vanquish, and his video to me was a very impressive video, but it wasn't a video that was able to help me because that fight is based purely on skill. And looking back at that video, I remember commenting as much and saying that as impressive as that video was, it's just not helpful. Although I realize that you obviously have a lot of skill here, and that's great, but I can't do that. So what I try to do is I try to make these guides accessible to people who aren't as knowledgeable about the game as I am, but make them knowledgeable through through what I impart, through the tactics and things like that. I got a really great comment from somebody the other day, actually, that says they had pretty much given up on Dante Must Die difficulty. They did a search on YouTube, they found my videos, and boom, they beat the game. And a comment like that, that's probably the best comment that I could ever receive, because that tells me that my guides are doing what I set out for them to do. I'm not sure what it was, just on a recent one of these videos here on Dante Must Die, but I thought that was just awesome because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that the person beat it and that the product that I'm making here is working. But I realize a lot of people, they don't really care about beating games on the hardest difficulty. They're intimidated by it. And I'm just here to tell you that there's no reason to be intimidated. If you can't beat it, that's fine. It's not the end of the goddamn world. But you can do it if you put the time in and you listen to these guides and heed the instruction that I'm giving you. These harpies here, when they're dangling over the abyss, shoot them with the shotgun. It doesn't really benefit you too much to use the charge shot. But then with these guys here, you use level 2 charges to... Actually, excuse me. Level 2 charges on those Ravagers is a waste of time. You know why? Because it takes longer to build up the level 2 charge, and a level 2 charge is not required to lift them up. So unless you need the extra damage dealt on them, you're just wasting time, and that's actually bad on the battlefield, because the longer you do charge and attack for the uppercut, the more vulnerable you are. Just add the vulnerability time to it and you'll see why. So what I like to do here actually is use I think it's called the Judgment. It's just the 3 or 4 hit attack in the air. Aerial Rave is what I think it's called, actually. Just hit them off, and then when you have the Tyrant, watch out for that. Fuck, that body slam hurts, doesn't it? But just launch these guys. These guys need a level 2 charge with the Erics, and then what I'm doing here is Y, pause, Y, and then I'm using the L2 plus square attack. Well, it's not an attack, it's just a pull. I'm using the pull to increase the height so that I keep this guy lifted as far as possible. Now when you do the Butcher, he doesn't have a hook on him, so to speak, where you can latch onto him. So you just need to be doing the roulette spin constantly and not integrating the angel pull or angel lift, I think it is. But this is wave 3, and you have lesser Stygians as well as Hell Knights here. So just be prepared over here, because once you kill these enemies, you're going to have 2 butchers. Now 2 butchers ordinarily would seem like it would be hell on earth. But what I would advise, sometimes this wave would actually kill me, just because of the franticness with which I would use to try to kill these guys. Sometimes I don't even go for the Trinity Smash, just because the first hit of that Trinity Smash, or the second hit, one of those hits, it pushes the enemy away, and it's, unless he's against a wall, you can't hit him with the other attacks. It's annoying. So what I do is just 3 triangles with the Arbiter. Seems like it's a nice compromise to do that. So 1 more Hell Knight left, and then the first, I think on this Butcher, I don't know if I got a level 2 charge with him. We'll have to see what happens. I knew full well to get it, and I probably do actually. Maybe it didn't connect though. 1, 2, there we go. Ah, he fell down. Something didn't connect, but did you see that? I might have activated the Devil Trigger. That put him into explosion mode. So what we're gonna do is wait on his impending death. So we're going to keep both of the butchers off of the screen as much as possible, and this actually gives me a lot of hope for Virgil's campaign. Okay, so we did some environmental damage, I think, some friendly fire to this fucker here. So we'll lift him up to the high heavens. If you miss, make sure that you come back at a proper time. The proper time is after he's recovering from one of his attacks. He'll have to raise his blades to, I think, to charge them, or to just reset what he's doing. But on this guy, it's just a roulette spin constantly. Roulette spin, and then, did you see what I did right there? I did a downward charge. Resist the impulse to do that, but what happens is delay the amount of time you have left to avoid his explosion. Take care.